Welcome to the Open Mic Podcast Show with Mike Midgley.
Hey, and welcome to the Open Mic Podcast Show today. We're going to be talking real sort of positive stuff in what is a bit of a gloomy economic environment at the moment. And we're going to be covering the topic of video marketing, storytelling, and also a little bit about that vulnerability that's kicking around out there. Today, I'm really pleased to be joined by today's influencer guest, which is Marley Jaxx, based out of the USA. Welcome to the show, Marley. It's great to have you on the show today.
Hello, so happy to be here. Thank you.
That's great. And I know we were just talking off show there about all the things that's going off there. And, you know, the importance of getting out there and being on video is nothing more important to put a positive message out there. So we're going to try and cover that for you. As we know, video is what it is. If you're not on video, you're not in the marketplace. It's a little bit like a lot of things at the moment. You know, we have to be present. And if you want to learn a little bit more about what Marley and the team are doing, if you can head over to our website, marleyjaxx.com. That's MarleyJaxx.com. We'll put all the social links in there for you to check what Marley and the team are doing, especially Instagram at Marley Jaxx. Also, if you want to learn a little bit more, straight at the top of the show, we have an infiniteimpactchallenge.com website that we will put a link in there where you can take a 21-day challenge. So what you learn in this podcast, you will be able to apply, and that's going to help you with your video messaging, the offer, creating an offer, and also a content strategy. So we'll post those links in there. So if you're driving, don't worry, you don't need to back up or rewind. We'll put them in the show notes and they'll be good to go. So before we get started, Marley, we're going to learn a little bit more about you, your journey today, and you know, how you got into this crazy business from that side. So how did you get started in video? And, you know, what's your journey been to, you know, from where you were to where you are today? Tell us a little bit more.
Well, I used to be a dental hygienist, which is so crazy to go from dental hygiene to making videos on the internet. I knew that I didn't want to be a dental hygienist forever. I didn't know what I wanted to do though. So while I was, you know, figuring it out between patients, I was doing social media for the dental office just because I knew how. And their IT guy was like, hey, can I refer you to another client of mine to do their social media too? Well, next thing I know, he's referred me to all of his clients, and all of a sudden I have a little side business going on. And I'm like, hey, this is a great opportunity that I could do more of this and get more clients and then have a business instead of being a dental hygienist. So I started to learn more about social media, and I started making videos for myself to get more visible so that I could get more clients. And then next thing I know, some of these videos are like really blowing up, and I'm getting attention. I'm getting people inquiring about business. So then I thought, well, what if I could do video like this for my clients too? And then it all snowballed from there that I learned all about video and YouTube and messaging and how to indoctrinate people into your content, your message, and your offer through videos. And then it's all blown up from there.
Yeah, and I think what you're talking about there is, and we see this a lot in the entrepreneurial lifestyle, that sometimes you fall into it by accident. It wasn't necessarily planned. And, you know, if you're out there listening to the show, yeah, I'd love to hear from you. Shoot me a message, use the hashtag #TheOpenMic. You know, where did you fall into something? How did, you know, what you're doing today, how did that happen? Share that with us. It'd be great to hear those stories. And that's not uncommon in the entrepreneurial world where that just happens to be. And, you know, from dental hygienist through to video creator, you know, it's not as if it's necessarily even remotely associated. So opportunities are out there. It's about being observant, keeping it out there. And tell us a little bit about the clients. Obviously the impact's strong, the quality is excellent, and that's attracted some major players that you've worked with, some people like Damon John and people like that. So just tell us a little bit more about those experiences and what it was like to work with those guys, because, you know, they're all, you know, I mean, obviously I'm sure you're going to mention others, you know, out there. I just introduced the Damon John one, but they're all unique in their own way, but very impactful. So is it different working with those type of celebrities, or, you know, is it the same? Is the demand higher? Is the pressure higher? Tell us a little bit more about working with that type of clientele.
It's definitely exciting because these are all people that I just admire and look up to. And that's what's so exciting too about what I do is my company has gotten very clear on the fact that we want to work with companies that are impact-driven, profit-focused, that they're using their impact to change the world, and then also, you know, create this revenue that then they can reinvest into making more of an impact. So we've worked with like Damon John from Shark Tank, Alex Sharfin, Christy Code Red, she's incredible, Steven Larson, and just, again, all these people, they have a specific message and a way that they're changing the world. And it's so exciting to be a part of that, to know that we're creating their video content that's reaching more people, that's changing more lives, that then all those, it's just such a huge ripple effect.
Yeah, absolutely. And, would you say, and this is a slightly off script, guys, here, but I'm sure the audience are keen to understand this. Would you say when you work at that level, the expectancy of the quality, the output, do you and your team need to go up a gear for maybe what you do, maybe even internally, or are you just say, hey, my system's at a level that I just consistently deliver, we've perfected it, or do you feel that out of pressure?
I mean, we have our systems in check, and whether it's a new entrepreneur or a celebrity on television, we want to make them all look incredible, because that's what we want to do, is we want to put a megaphone to their message. Yep. And really highlight them as the celebrity in their niche, even if they're brand new to the market. I mean, there's definitely excitement on our end of like, oh my God, we work with these people. But we feel like that about everybody, that when we take on a client, because of course there's clients that we might say no to if they're not a good fit. And that's a big lesson for any entrepreneur, that you don't just say yes to everything. You have to work with people who are in alignment with you. And absolutely, there have been people that were like, you know what, we can't with integrity stand behind this message, so we're not the right fit for you. So we want that like starstruck feeling about every single client.
Yeah, that's a great message. And, I always ask the listeners to sort of hit the rewind button if there's something profound there, and not every client is a good fit. And what Marley's just said there is it will save you a lot of heartache, the little bit of money you may or may not make out of them, whether it's a lot, a middle, or a little, the time, the hassle, the inconvenience, the stress, it just isn't much. So if you haven't got that figured out, please go back and start work on that, because it will save you a lot of hassles. That's a great message, Marley. Thanks for sharing that. And as we go forward, you talk about creating a movement, putting that megaphone to the message and things like that, through these omnipresent sort of assets. Tell us a little bit more about what that means. I know we're going to dig a little bit deeper, but, we've got listeners of the show. Some are sort of maybe just getting started out. Some will be at, a real base fifth grade level, and we'll have some awesome sort of well-educated pros at the end of it. So for the people who are just maybe getting started out, when we talk about creating this movement through omnipresent assets, why is it so, what is it, and why is it so important that people adopt that type of strategy?
Yeah, well, there's two parts that I'd like to answer. Is like building a movement. This is something that people can get behind. It's not just like throwing out content that people hit the like button. It's something that people are like, I want to be part of this. Yep. And you think about any movement that's been created, you have these parades, you have rallies, you have people wearing like t-shirts representing this. Like that's the kind of impact that you want to have on people, that they become part of it. It becomes like part of their identity to follow your movement, whatever that future-based cause is, however you're changing people's lives. And to create omnipresent content, meaning that like people see you everywhere. That's the best compliment we get for ourselves and our clients, is when people say, oh my God, I see you everywhere. And it's like, yes, mission accomplished. Because I mean, you want to spread that message. You want it to reach everybody. So when you can have people saying like, oh, I saw this, I saw that, and you're everywhere. Like that's what people want, right? So creating a movement that people can get behind, and then having the content everywhere.
Yeah, that's great. A couple of things. I'm going to do this more for the listeners' sort of benefit than your own. If you're unsure about movement, there's a great video which is called The First Follower on YouTube. And if you search The First Follower, it's about a crazy guy with his top off doing a dance on this hillside. And then everybody's sort of laughing at him to start with. And then ultimately another one joins, and then another one joins. And then, 3 minutes into the video, there is the entire bank doing this silly, crazy dance. And it says, and the caption at the end of it is, that's how to create a movement, by getting people to share and be part of that sort of environment. So it's a great video, even if it's just a little bit of fun in the crazy world that we're living in at the moment. Go check it out. It's called The First Follower. It's on YouTube. You can check it out. You go from there. And I think also, Marley, I resonate tremendously where you said people want to be part of it, whether that's wearing a t-shirt, whatever. I was talking to David Meerman Scott a while ago, and he's got the world's largest private collection of Apollo space memorabilia, even like the watch that Buzz Aldrin wore on the moon, and engines and things like that. And he was saying how NASA, even though they're a government department, have created this movement that, how many other government departments like the IRS or, whatever else create such a following, but NASA now, they've got their your own branded t-shirts, and people buy into that. So it is possible. So if you think, even if you're thinking, hey, I'm going to really, stereotypical professional services company, it's still possible to create a movement, because if NASA, who's a government department, can make that work, then I'm sure other people do. So the question I've got for you, Marley, is there any industries that you feel can't create a movement, or it's just like, more or less impossible, or with the right strategy, can we all get that done?
That's such a good question. I really think that there is a movement possible for, there's even movements that we don't agree with. Like you look back in history and there's definitely things you're like, why was that? Why did people follow that? Anyone can have a charismatic personality. Anyone can create a cause that people can get behind and give people that identity and passion for like what they want to create with this movement. I can't think of a single thing. Like there are movements around quilts. Like I have a client that has a quilting company, and they call themselves quilters, and they give themselves their names that they wear proudly on their t-shirts. It just takes extra creativity. So for anyone that's like, well, I don't know what my people would call themselves or what the movement would be, there is something for everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's a call out from Marley, guys. You got to get creative and shoot us a message. Use the hashtag The Open Mic. Use the hashtag Marley Jaxx or Getting Jaxx, and then Marley and the team will pick that up. And I'm sure they'll be happy to sort of check something out and give you a little bit of a strategy. And again, if you want to get involved with this and really get excited, we have a landing page, infiniteimpactchallenge.com, 21-day challenge, where Marley and the team will help you create your message, your offer, and a content strategy that will start to get you moving from there. And again, that link's in the show notes. So as we talk more about this sort of subject of video marketing, storytelling, vulnerability, and thanks for sharing your background, Marley. It's good to understand that little bit of a journey and also the sort of connections and the way that you're working. Now, we have such a wide and diverse range of audience. And like I mentioned earlier, they're all at different levels. So how do you see video marketing changing from where it is today, say in the shorter to medium term? Is it going to be like when Nokia moved over to the iPhone? Is it going to be some major shifts with a product change, or is it has it peaked and it's just about getting creativity? Tell us what your predictions are. And I know we don't have a crystal ball, but I'd love to know you're inside this. I'm sure the audience thinking, well, what I'm doing now, is that working? Should I be getting ready for a bigger change? I'd love to get your thoughts on what you think is going to happen in the video marketing industry.
Absolutely. I mean, look at how much it's already changed. The fact that, in the old days, people used to gather around radios to hear stories and to be entertained. And then it was television, color television. And now we have these devices in our hands 24/7, and we're watching and consuming content when we're standing in line at the grocery store, or when we're sitting in our parked cars. Like every single place you have this content, and all of the social media platforms, and there's even new social media platforms being created. A major pillar of that is video content, because it's easy to consume. It shifts emotions. It creates transformations, and there's only going to be more of that. Even all the social media platforms, the algorithm, their content is more valued when it's video. YouTube is growing at a faster rate than ever. And with YouTube, you have the opportunity to be creating evergreen lead generation. So it's only going to grow from there. And I'm sure with the more platforms that are coming out, even like TikTok came out in the last year and is blowing up. And I think more social media platforms and innovators are going to be able to see the power of video and implement it more through new softwares that we haven't even heard of yet. And the selling power, the buying power through video is just crazy. Like people aren't reading blogs as much as they are anymore. And by being able to communicate with your audience through video, that's the way to win. Yeah,
absolutely. And tell me, I interviewed a TikTok influencer from Canada, actually, a lady called Jade Vincent, and she's got about 1.5 million followers on TikTok. Teenager, totally different dynamic to what I normally do on the show, but it shows that we're trying to stay relevant as well in that. And it's just such a, like you say, a different medium is TikTok. And is that right for everybody's strategy? Obviously, think of audience participation. Is it to sort of bring those people up? Is it something that you're recommending that, the clients that you're working on, we push into TikTok? Is that something that is relevant to everybody, or do you think that's more niche, and for specific audiences?
It's all in the strategy. Like there's even a mortgage broker who is closing deals and generating leads from TikTok. And you would think about that and be like, mortgage broker?
Financial services, yeah.
Right. It's all in the content. So it's just about having the right content strategy. And it doesn't have to be getting on TikTok and doing dances. Like my best friend, Rachel Peterson, also teaches TikTok and teaches people how they can make businesses through videos on TikTok without doing silly dances. Because I mean, that's a very common thing that TikTok is used for. But that's why also if you create a strategy around it, you can stand out more than most people are. So it's all in the strategy. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, thanks for sharing that. And do you want to drop a bombshell? What do you think is going to be the biggest change in the video industry in the coming months? Is there going to be new tech? Is it going to be the way that people consume it? Is it device-based? What do you think? I'm going to push you a bit harder on that. What do you think the major change would be?
I think there's going to be new platforms coming out, like even just how like Snapchat was the thing, and then Instagram started implementing stories like Snapchat had, and then Instagram really dominated there, and then TikTok came out. Like there's platforms that we don't even know of that are probably being imagined right now. And then I also think the disappearing content, like the Instagram stories, 15-second stories that disappear after 24 hours, because of that urgency and scarcity that it's about to go away. People are consuming content and they have these people that they follow. They're like, if they don't watch it, they miss out. And then they get that FOMO of like, I missed something. So that's also getting people retained.
Yeah, and they're excluded from that conversation in their social circle then, because three of the people are saying, hey, did you see X? And then, no, I didn't. And then you can't go back and get it. So absolutely. So I really appreciate you sharing that. And so I know storytelling. You mentioned earlier about people gathering around the radios, in the before black and white era came out, really, all the way through. But stories have been ever present. Even if you go back to the Joseph Campbell, and things like that, and the stories and 7 basic plots. There's a couple of books there, Hero's Journey, 7 basic plots you might want to check out for storytelling. I'm sure that in the strategies that you guys work with, storytelling is built into that. Is there a framework or is there an approach that the listeners could say, hey, what is my story? Should I think about the video content first and then backfill the story? Should I get my story straight and apply it to the video? Could you give us your insights on that, Marley? What's your thoughts?
Russell Brunson teaches this framework called Hook, Story, Offer, where you start with the hook that's going to really captivate and compel your audience. And that's so important because your audience, I mean, we have the attention span of a goldfish. And there's cat videos and lots of other entertaining things on the internet. So we want to make sure that we're capturing their attention. So that first beginning of your video should hook them in, and then you can go into the story. And in the story, there's so many ways that you can share that story, whether it's like your origin story, sharing who you are and how you came to be, because that's how people understand the journey you've been on, and people can resonate and relate and go, oh, okay, you're someone that I trust. Now I know that I should follow you because you've taken a similar journey that maybe I want to be on. I always think of the story as like you're showing your before and after picture, and your current reality, the after picture, is where your audience wants to be. So your before is where they're currently at, and where you're currently at is what they want to get to. And they know that if they listen to you, they can follow you, then they'll get that result too because of the things that you can teach. And then the end of the story is like the conclusion or the offer, and always giving a call to actions for what they can do next. So whether it's asking them to like the video or comment or subscribe or go to this link and sign up, you always want to have that, like, what's that call to action that you're getting them to take action? Because if you don't give them like, hey, here's the next step, do this, it's almost like going on a first date with the love of your life and then not asking for a second one and hoping they call you. They might not. They might just
they're thinking you're calling, you thinking they're calling, in between you all drift apart. I absolutely get it. Tell me something. Is it what? Sorry?
And then you've lost them. It's just a connection.
Yeah, and all that work that you've done is gone. Tell me something that I'm interested to sort of get your view on here. If we understand ungated content, which is obviously free to consume, there's gated content and then there's possibly paid content. So if you're looking at any of the clients and what we do, what Marley does, we all have an element of professional services. Otherwise, that's how we stay in business. We generate revenue, of course. So paid is clear. I'm clear on paid and I'm clear on ungated. What's the strategy in today's market when you could maybe get them to join a movement, as an example, to then get exclusive content that's maybe a teaser into the paid stuff? Does that still work? Is that so last year or so 2015? Is that sort of middle ground of, hey, join my tribe, get exclusive content, which is getting them further, into the funnel, round the flywheel, call it whatever you want these days. Is that still a thing, or are you sort of advising against that? What's your view on that?
No, absolutely. I think that's a great business model, whether it's a membership site or a subscription or just like join this course. So for example, I give a ton of free content on my YouTube channel, on my Facebook, on my Instagram. Yeah. But if you want more in-depth and implementation and the strategies and more frameworks, then join the 21-day challenge or join my course, like whatever. Because I always believe that the transformation is in the transaction. Like, people can get free content forever, and there's tons of YouTube trainings that people can get, absolutely. But it's also when they invest something, and it doesn't have to be a big investment. It could be a $5 ebook. It can be a $47 challenge. It can be a $100 course. When someone has invested in themselves, they're investing in a result, and they have skin in the game, so they want to get a result. When you're just kind of skimming through YouTube and you're like, yeah, whatever, you don't always have that same mental investment of like, I'm going to get a result from this. And it's also not just the content, it's the community. People come for the content, but they stay for the community. And then that community is what builds the movement. It's not always following a leader. It's following, yes, the content that the culture comes from the top, but it's the community around it that you become part of. Like, I'm a big fan of ClickFunnels. It's an amazing software. Yeah. Russell Brunson is the leader of that, but there's this community of people that they call themselves funnel hackers because they're building sales funnels. Yep. And even if, yes, we love Russell. Absolutely. He's the leader of this movement. He drives the culture, but it's the community that's like the glue that keeps it together.
That's part of, yeah. Yes. You feel also as well that you're not on your own, don't you, in those type of environments? I know Ryan Dice is obviously, it's similar type of thing with digital marketer. There is a huge community around that, and they don't even answer half of the questions. You've got prominent people in those communities who are answering it for them as they've become brand advocates. So that's a great part as well. So thanks for clearing that up. I appreciate that, going off script a little bit. Talk about vulnerability. Mental health, social anxiety, fear of imposter syndromes, all these things that some point at whether you're just starting out in business and whether this relates to video or it doesn't really matter. The reality is that we all feel vulnerable at some part of it. How does that impact on the video strategy? Should it be part of it? Should you show that? Should you try and mask it? Is it not connected? Talk to me a little bit what you mean when you talk about the vulnerability side.
I believe that vulnerability is like one of the most important things about your content strategy. It's being real. It's being you. It's showing people that you're relatable. There's people on the internet that they're showing off their Lambos and their mansions and their
what they've rented for the weekend.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not relatable. I can't. That's not me. And some people get excited by it because then that's the future that they think, oh, if I follow this person, maybe I can have that too. I want that kind of lifestyle. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. There are people that do that they are making an impact in the world. And I have nothing against that at all. It's just a difference in content strategy. But I believe that when you are vulnerable with your content and sharing the good, the bad, the ugly, like you think of the movies we watch, and every single movie has that plot line where the hero starts from nothing and they hit rock bottom and they have this big obstacle and struggle, and the antagonist, the villain, the person that's good, and at the end of the movie, whether they've won the race or they got the girl or they made the $1 million, you're cheering louder when they won because you saw what they went through to get there. Yeah. So my entire business changed when I went through a divorce. And of course that's very personal, and it's scary to all the things that have, like rebranding and changing my name and the emotional toll that took. But when I was honest with my audience about here's what I'm going through, and that's a scary thing. Of course, it feels very scary to be vulnerable, that you're like, I'm not sure how people are going to respond to this, if they're going to think, well, why would I listen to her because she doesn't have her life figured out? But when I decided to embrace that message, my audience embraced me, and the community around me became stronger, and they encouraged me to push on for them, not just for me. And because I was relatable, whether it was someone else who was also going through a relationship problem, or even just someone else who was like, I have my own struggles and I see how you're moving forward in your business and making an impact, even though you have personal issues going on. That made everything around my business so much stronger.
Yeah, and it's so important to have that, isn't it? And I interviewed both authors, Ryan Folland and Leonard Kim. They've just got a book out called, well, just last year, called Ditch the Act. And that's where it's just like, hey, this is me, this is where I'm at. If you want to see somebody do that at the nth degree, just go follow Leonard Kim on Twitter, at Mr. Leonard Kim. You will see he shares his credit card statements, to a degree that maybe I wouldn't personally do, but that's the way of saying, I am what I am, you get what you get. These are my personal struggles I have in my personal life, my business life, my mental health, everything from his visits to the physician and things like that, to the hospital, to this. It's like living in a real soap opera, really. Like a TV sort of docuseries. But that's what Leonard does. That's what he does. And then obviously he's the co-author of the book with Ryan Folland, Ditch the Act. It's a great book if you want to learn more about that. But I agree with you. And tell me a little bit more, Marley, about that. Not the divorce sort of thing, but what was the type of reaction? You mentioned that they all rallied round. Did that sort of inspire you to then sort of say, well, hey, I've had this personal tragedy, did that give you a different motivation to go in a different direction, create new products, offer new services? Did the feedback that you got from the community help you drive that? Or did it just solidify, and did you sort of, not go into your shell, but did you say, no, I'm going to concentrate, I'm going to double down on what I did? And, I'm interested in what your strategy was as you was exiting that sort of that tragedy, and also how the community helped you through that. That would be really good, because I know there's listeners, difficult times, people are losing their jobs, people are unsure about the homes, incomes, and I think it's more than any time that is super relevant with where we're at the moment with the crazy time. So I'd just love if you would go as deep as you want, but just let us know what your strategy was on the exits, through the output, and how the community helped you achieve that.
Yeah, absolutely. It was definitely a double down, because before that I was creating content where, sure, I was sharing my story and what I was doing and sharing strategies and tactics around my marketing and what I teach normally. But then after being so honest about what was going on in my life and hearing the audience respond to me more than ever, when your audience is speaking to you and they're giving you feedback and validation and telling you what they need, that's when you know what else to create for your market. But if you don't have that engagement, then you're just like kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. So when I had my audience telling me like, this, like, we need this, and this, your strength is inspiring, and by sharing what you're going through is giving me permission to take action on my stuff, or for me to keep going even through my struggles. So then that became for me, like, that was the light for me that I wanted to keep going towards, is I need to be a light for people in their dark times. Yeah. And that means me sharing things that might feel uncomfortable. Yeah. And we often let comfort stop us. And one of the things that I say now in my content a lot is like, helping people doesn't stop just because your life isn't perfect. No one's is. So I announced my marriage ended at the beginning of January. And 3 weeks later, I was on a stage at Funnel Hacking Live, one of the biggest marketing events, in front of 5,000 people. And all eyes were on me because, first of all, I mean, I'm speaking to a big audience, but they're also watching, how is this girl going to respond in the face of this, like, adversity, potential personal turmoil? And I use that platform to then share that message of like, get vulnerable and share and help people. That doesn't stop just because your life isn't perfect. Your imperfections are going to give people permission to keep going in their imperfections or in their struggles. And I mean, again, I can go back to the movie example. We watch movies to be inspired. We hear their stories. We watch them overcome. We see them hit rock bottom and overcome their struggles. And even if it's a made up story, we love those characters because we got to see the ins and outs of their life.
Yeah, that's really important. Tell me a little bit about this stage at Funnel Hacking. Was it what you expected? What did you get the dry mouth before you went out? I know the smoke comes out. Share us a little bit about, if people have not heard of it, big obviously conference. Just tell us a little bit more about the event, what your topic was, and also what the feedback was when you got through it, because you're still here with us. You didn't sort of freeze on the stage, of course. So just tell us before, during, and after what the experience was like.
It was the best day of my life. And I actually documented the whole thing. So I have like vlogs on my YouTube channel of, the month, I mean, I have the video where I announced that my marriage ended. That was kind of the beginning of it. And then all of the lead up, and I had a speaking engagement before, and getting to Funnel Hacking Live, and then the day that I spoke, and then what happened after. It was amazing. And you know, when you have like this big moment in your life and you're like, you're visualizing it. And then when it's over, you think back of like, did I say everything that I wanted to say? And was it everything that I imagined? It was more than what I could have imagined. And there's nothing I would change about it, which is just the best feeling. And yeah, after that, I got off the stage and had so many hugs and love and asking for autographs and pictures. And it was incredible. And people saying like, because of what you shared, I'm going to be able to go out and impact my audience and make my message. And that's the most rewarding thing. That's what I'm here to do.
Yeah, and that's amazing. And are you going to do more of that? You know, maybe TEDx, like TEDx speaking or something like that. You know, are you going to do more of it? Is that the plan to sort of go and get that? It's a bit like a little bit of a bug. I mean, I've done quite a bit of public speaking over the last 16 or 17 years. I did a keynote for Digital Marketer, the Ryan Dice guys down in London at their event in June last year with people like Dennis Yu and things. And I get hooked on it. And I don't do it as much as I used to. But it's like that old guilty pleasure. You go back there and then you go out there and you do a 45-minute session or something. And then you think, like, why am I not doing more of this? And then you sort of get busy in your life. And I probably do 3 or 4 events a year. That's probably all I'm doing. But probably by schedule more than by choice, because I get addicted to it and I love it. And, you know, you don't do it for you do it for the value that you share, but I get so much gratification for it. And, you know, and is that something that have you got more events that people can come and see you on later this year?
Well, this year, because of coronavirus, we've been a little shut down. But yes, I mean, at the end of the year, September, October, November, I have some speaking gigs lined up as long as they all go through. And I love it. It's a rush. It's like, I love performing. Like when I was a kid, I used to do acting and singing, and I love it. And I love being able to feed off the energy of the audience and give and just pour into them. And it's also fun to, like at Funnel Hacking Live, I said things that I didn't even plan on. That
it just goes.
It just came out of me, and I felt like it was what the audience needed.
Brilliant. No, that's awesome. Well, best of luck with it on the future gigs, and let's hope that we can get back on the speaking circuit real soon, for sure. So you mentioned YouTube a couple of times. It's the natural default. Everybody, I'm saying everybody knows it. Maybe they don't, but you know, Google, YouTube. Obviously, there's a connection there as well. Of course, we all know the platform, but is there a different strategy, and what is the best strategy for YouTube over maybe other type of, you know, either omni-channel, omnipresent sort of content? Could you share us your thoughts around that a little bit?
With YouTube, it's understanding that it's not just a social media platform, it's a search engine.
Yeah.
And it's the second largest search engine in the world, owned by the biggest search engine in the world, Google.
Yep.
So what happens when you have a question or you need a problem solved? Yes, we go to our moms on occasion, but most of the time we go to Google. We Google it and we Google what we need to find. And often, because YouTube is owned by Google, we find videos that we can watch. So imagine the power of having thousands of people search for a search term, and your video comes up and people find your content all day, every day. So with that ability, the biggest thing is that when you're creating this content, to create it knowing that people can find this evergreen. Like when you make a Facebook Live video, it doesn't last for very long. No. But I have videos from 2016 that I put on YouTube that I titled correctly for search engine optimization that are still ranking in the search engines. So that's the power of YouTube, is that people can be finding this content all day, every day.
Yeah, and of course, with the Google, even with the Google search, there is videos in Google search as well from that side. But tell me more. You mentioned about the keyword strategy. You know, if you're thinking about a blog post or a web page, you could have the meta, the title, the slug, the alt image, all the type of SEO type of key aspects. Talk us about what people should be doing, because I know I've seen it myself when we've done audits on the channels. We see just a video uploaded and, like you say, it's poorly named, the title's not right, the thumbnail's not. Is there a sort of a key thing that as people are uploading the videos, what is the top 3, top 5 things that they should do? Is it the title, the slug, et cetera, et cetera? Just talk us through that so it helps them rank and people can take practical advice from that.
The title is really important. That's like the foundation of the video. And here's an example. When I first made YouTube videos, one of my first video was, did you know Instagram does this? I tried to be clickbaity, thinking like, oh, people are going to see this and be like, oh, what does Instagram do? Tell me more. But the problem with that is people aren't searching for that. That's not what they're typing into Google. They're typing in things like how to make money on YouTube, or how to, like, a lot of how-tos. It doesn't have to be how-to, but how are people actually searching for content? What are the keywords people are searching for? So when you title your videos based on how people are actually searching and the search terms people are trying to find, that's how people are going to find it. So we use tools like TubeBuddy or Keywords Everywhere to look into what's the search volume, what's the competition, because also if you go for search terms that have way too much competition, you're not going to be able to rank and you won't show up in the search engines. So having a good title, having the description that has lots of keywords in it, and then also having tags in the video to highlight what the video is about.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thanks for sharing that. I really appreciate it. And I think Keywords Everywhere, that's like you can get a free Chrome extension there. I mean, I think there may be a paid version as well, but there is a free one as well, isn't there? So you don't even have to invest to start with. Just search it in the Chrome store or whatever. And like Marley says, it's going to give you, and when you search normally in Google, it could be for something you're just shopping for personally. It's going to give you all the numbers and the search volumes and how many people are searching, and alternatives as well. So it's a great place to get started. Thanks for sharing that, Marley. I appreciate it. And for the finance sort of listeners, we talk about so many different new marketing strategies, whether it's a channel, whether it's a content piece, whether, it's a type. A lot of them are drawn to, but should I invest my marketing budget here? What's the return on investment going to be? So is there a best strategy or a best piece of advice maybe you could give for maybe some of the finance people who are holding back on video and not maybe committing to the marketing teams? How do they connect their investment to video marketing, to return on investment and revenue? Is there something that you could say, give this a thought, run this through your financial model, and this will make sense? Because I know there's a lot of people who say, I've got to hire a video crew, that's XYZ, or maybe should you do it yourself? Will it be the right content? Will it be rough and ready and raw? Will that convert? And I think the finance people are always saying, whatever we do, polished, produced, or rough and ready, at the old angle on the phone, is that the best time, money investment, and when do I see a return? And I appreciate it may be an impossible question, when do I see a return? But I'd love to get your view. If I'm a finance director and I'm saying, hey, Marley, I get it. My sales director, my marketing director has pestered me to work with you, but you want X $1,000 or whatever it may be. Where's the return? What's the justification for this? I think that's what a lot of people, especially with marketing budgets, potentially getting pulled in this difficult time. Where should people be spending it, and what expected return could they get out of it?
Yeah, well, remember I mentioned earlier that I have videos from 2016 that are still showing up at the top of search.
Yeah.
So my investment of my time, really, back then I was still filming videos with my iPhone and kind of like a window for natural light. You really don't have to invest. Like, if you want to do it yourself, you totally can. If you do want to hire a videographer or hire a video marketing team, absolutely you can. It's totally up to you. And there's different levels of investments, absolutely.
Yeah, of course.
But imagine the power of having videos that you create once that are still generating leads for you years later. That's what I call owning attention instead of renting attention. When you rent attention, that's where you're putting money into Facebook ads that you have to keep paying for it to keep showing up. And that's not knocking. We use Facebook ads all the time. It's very important. But having the option and having a different source of revenue, like, even think of how the economy is changing. You need to have multiple sources of how you're generating leads, how you're generating revenue. So I think having these videos that can be omnipresent, evergreen video assets, they're assets. They're not just content. So it doesn't have to be a big investment, and it can pay off for years. Yeah.
And you talk about assets. I think a lot of people don't see digital. They see it as an expense, not an asset. But, if you think about it from an accountant's point of view, you go and build a website that might be $10,000 or $20,000 or whatever it may be. You see the value in that tangible. So what you're saying here, Marley, is see them as get the strategy right, of course, but see them as assets and put your attention to something that can be reused over as a core foundation. And then obviously you've got tactical videos that are maybe going to support that going forward. And I suppose it's just that understanding of seeing that, isn't it, really, that it is an asset, it is something of tangible value that you can use over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's a huge strategy.
Yeah, brilliant. Marley, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today and learning from you. Thanks for sharing so much value. As we wrap out of the show, could you sort of maybe share sort of 3 pro tips that our audience could sort of maybe apply. Maybe they're just getting started, or maybe I think most people are going to be dabbling with some type of video, experimenting, whether it's a bit on LinkedIn with the sales team or whatever. Mm-hmm. What would be the 3 pro tips that you would potentially advise people to do if they don't want to go out, and have a go themselves to start with?
Mm-hmm. Number 1, share your story. And I always recommend actually having a story inventory, whether that's a note section on your phone or a Google Doc or a journal, where you kind of just have a list of your good stories that you can tell. And as you start to create a story inventory, you'll start to really see more stories around you. Like, your life is content, whether it's something you overheard at the grocery store or a conversation you had with your kids or something like that, that you can tie it back into your lesson, your content, your message. So sharing your stories. Number 2, and tapping into the vulnerability by sharing stuff that maybe sometimes feels uncomfortable. But that's what gets people to connect with you, because they see you're a real person. They understand the struggles or the obstacles that you've overcome, and it gives them permission knowing that they can too, because you've been an inspiration for them. And lastly, to use YouTube as one of your video strategies, because of the power of people finding you through search engines. And that with every video you have, you should have a call to action so that you're telling people the next place to go to continue to nurture that relationship with them and potentially lead them towards a sale.
Yeah, so basically make sure you ask for that second date and don't leave everybody thinking, is he or is she going to do that type of thing? So make sure you share your story, guys. Get that sort of story inventory, whether it's notes, Google Docs is great. Tap into the vulnerability, share with it. Obviously it's up to you how far you want to go with that, but let them connect, help other people through. And obviously make sure YouTube is part of that strategy, and link in a call to action. That's fabulous. And if you want to work with Marley and her team, head over to marleyjaxx.com. You can check her out on Instagram at Marley Jaxx. Don't forget, head over to infiniteimpactchallenge.com as well, where you can do the 21-day video challenge as well, where they're going to help you create a strategy, offer, and message around that. And, we can take this a little bit further of what you've heard here. Marley, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the Open Mic Show today. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. And for you as our listeners, we appreciate you've got a hell of a lot of choice in the podcast market. We appreciate you tuning in as always with your growth engine development. Thanks again. Go and get in the game. Go to the hustle. Go make it happen. And we're going to catch up with you on another Open Mic podcast real soon. Take care, guys. God bless.
You have been listening to The Open Mic, brought to you by The Success Hub. To find out more and to get the resources we have mentioned in this podcast episode, simply visit blog.thesuccesshub.io and view the podcast section. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to catching up with you in our next episode. This podcast and associated materials is published under copyright to The Success Hub. All rights reserved. No reproduction of this material is permitted.